This episode is brought to you by Work It Health, now offering medication in California and Michigan and coaching and addiction courses in all 50 states. Get treatment from your living room. Work It Health provides online therapy, coaching, engaging online courses that help you live without drugs, and medication-assisted treatment like Suboxone and Vivitrol when needed. Your Work It program can be done together with the 12 steps or as a standalone solution. Get help at home. Visit workithealth.com/dopey. Now, to sign up or just to get more info. That's workithealth.com/dopey.
What a very nice read. Hello, and welcome to Dopey, the podcast about drugs, addiction, and dumb shit. And I'm Dave, and we are in Manhattan, and I'm with my very, very old friend and dear friend, Greg.
Hey, everybody.
Welcome. See, I think it's very important that if one person claps, even though you're clapping for yourself, the two clapping at the same time, it just sounds like something's happening.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's more exciting.
So, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Nice. And we are in my father's apartment, and Greg has visited this place since probably 1981.
Yeah, that's probably true. I don't know if I came to your house when we were that age, but yeah,
I went
definitely
to your
early
house.
80s.
I went to your house when we were 7 or something, and I have this memory that I told you about that you don't remember, but it's very clear for me, and it kind of hurts my feelings that you don't remember.
Yeah, it wasn't meaningful for me.
No, it was very meaningful for me. Do you want me to remind you?
Please.
Me and Greg used to draw pictures together, and we would, like little kids do, we would draw superheroes. And maybe you didn't do this, maybe I just did this, but I remember my superhero would always have this infinite amount of force fields around him.
Oh my God, I feel like I taught you how to do infinite amount of force fields.
So you know what I'm
bit
talking
my
about.
style. Of course, I drew that all the time, 24/7.
Do you think that indicates some sort of deep psychological problem?
I don't think it's that deep. I think you're a kid, you have no power. I mean, is everybody interested in why do kids love superheroes and tanks and shit that shoots? I think, remember Steve Murtaugh's theory about, you put power in the title of anything and kids like Power Rangers because it's the thing they don't have any of. It's just I finally have power, protection. I don't have to do what everybody else tells me to do. But yes, it could also be psychological,
But what's another power thing besides Power Rangers? I think a lot of people are missing out on this thing.
Well, He-Man was I have the power.
Okay.
It's been a while since I was watching Saturday
watching
morning
these
cartoons
things
on the reg, but maybe it's not true. But anything that they're watching of you can fly, you can do all this stuff. It's they're selling power to the community that has the least of it.
Kids want to access power, but we rather than having power, we drew force fields around us to protect us from the world.
Yes.
That's much different than being able to fuck shit up, because we're don't hurt me, I have a brick wall, I have fire, I have an invisible shield,
Totally.
Then I have the green shield.
Totally.
What was that about?
But I think everybody can relate to that on some level, even people that aren't deeply neurotic and
psychologically
fearful.
scarred.
But I remember when my cousin taught me how to draw a muscly comic book superhero for the first time, and I was just so psyched, and that's all I did. And it was if you caught me at a certain age, you'd just see me drawing muscles.
Drawing muscles.
Drawing muscles. It's the most homoerotic 6-year-old. But
you're drawing muscles and big cocks.
And huge cocks. And force fields around them.
So nobody could get to the sweet, sweet cock.
Okay, so we're drawing.
Do you need to do your phone, the car parking?
Oh shoot. Okay, but you got to get back to we're in my house drawing force field superheroes.
No, that's the whole memory.
That's the whole memory?
That's it.
Oh my God.
I remember you had a comforter with some sort of paint splatter stuff on it.
Yeah, that's right. I was
and
I
geometric
had so
shapes
much
and
style.
stuff.
I had the Jackson Pollock.
Yeah.
Shit. Other kids had wax superheroes. I
You
had
did,
some
right?
MoMA.
Your mother was like, "You're gonna get the classy comforter."
Yeah.
You're like, "Mom, can I get the Hulk?" She's
No way. I was an intellectual aesthete even back then.
You were into it.
Oh, so into it.
I don't believe that.
I had so much flavor. I think that's funny that you were saying you felt so vulnerable about a story where we're drawing all those force fields.
I don't think I
Extra
felt
layer of
vulnerable.
irony.
I think
the fact that it means nothing to me and I don't remember it, and it was your favorite moment of your childhood.
It hurts
being
my
in
feelings. It does. It hurts me because I also really enjoyed it. I remember because when we were little, we didn't hang out that much. But like I remember that time, and I was like, I like to go to Greg's house, and like you're like, I don't care, and like so that hurts, years and years later. I also remember though, like, because me and Greg like have we've known each other like since we were little kids, and we've always like kind of been in the same world of friends and stuff, but we didn't really hang out hardcore until right after at the end of high school, and I remember like the summers at the end of high school, you would come over and I would smoke tons of pot, and you wouldn't necessarily smoke tons of pot, and we'd play video games. Do you remember that?
Oh,
we would just sit
we
there.
Played Blazers Bulls all the time.
And NBA
I was
jams.
Golden State, and you were the Knicks, usually, right?
And I'd put on, and I'd be like, we'd play NBA jams, and I'd be like, hold on. And I'd put on, like, the Grateful Dead, Cumberland Blues, and I'd be like, now I can beat you. And I was like, think I was fast because the Grateful Dead were playing, and I'd be like, that was
a weird music to play when you want to get really fast.
No, I mean, that song, it's like, ding, 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 it's like very, like, fast-paced shit. Now we got to switch gears and update the Dopey Nation on where Dopey is at. Last week, I don't know if you know about this, but last week we had MTV Teen Mom Amber Portwood on. Do you know who that is?
Oh, from you interviewing her. That's about it, yeah.
Well, she's a big MTV star, and because she was on Dopey, Dopey was in People Magazine, fucking Fox News, fucking Us
news.
Weekly, Radar Online. They mentioned this little stupid podcast. So thank you, Amber Portwood. What a thing. And we can't wait to have you back on the show. Isn't that amazing? Doesn't that blow your mind?
It totally blows my mind. I'm very impressed.
Are you?
Yeah.
What impresses you the most about this?
Just that Dopey is large and, is relevant, but more importantly, is helping people and listening to calls of people being like, you help me stay clean and not kill myself. It's amazing. You can drop the mic right there. And then it's just an added bonus that, like, people shouting you out and, Artie Lang and Dr. Drew come by and chill.
Artie Lang, Artie Lang texted me out of the blue the other day, and I'm going to read you the text. He texted me, what the fuck?
Have any Dopey viewers, are they worried at all about your obsession with Artie Lang?
No.
Okay.
I think Artie Lang might be the only one. But I also, it was surprising because
He's worried when you have, like, a black baseball cap and hoodie outside his apartment and he sees your eyes peering in through his window.
I feel like if I was there, I honestly think that if I went to Hoboken to see Artie, I think he'd be psyched. I know that sounds crazy. I think he would be psyched, but I don't think he's psyched to get the texts.
Right. I believe that.
So I text him a few times a week, and I think the last thing I said, sorry I keep bugging you. I just know what early recovery is like and hope you're talking to people. I don't want you to die next. All my best, Dave. And then days later, I guess it was days later. Today's what? The 30th. It was 2 days later. He writes, I'm doing okay. Please don't think I'm being hostile if I can't answer text soon. I'm in the most stressful part of my life ever right now. Just saw my probation officer for the 4th time and still avoiding jail. I sweat it out every time. And I wrote, I can only imagine, fucking scary. I just know how recovery can skeeve you, and I just want to be helpful if I can.
Sweet.
And then he writes, you're a great guy, man. My life's been chaos for 35 years. At some point, it's got to end or slow down. I'd prefer the second option. And then I write...
Oh, no.
And then he writes LOL, which I never like. Do you like LOL?
No.
Do you write LOL?
I never write LOL.
Never. What do you write?
Well, because you hate when I...
Oh, I forgot about that.
I like to double-click text and respond with little bubbles like ha-ha and heart and thumbs up or thumbs down. And Dave hates it. And that just makes me want to do it more.
You do it all the time.
Yeah.
Would you do it if I didn't hate it? Do you do it
I
with
would
everybody?
Still do. I do it with everybody.
Why do you do it?
It's great. I mean, the whole purpose of a text is like quick communication. If I can express that I enjoyed, and I like it. I want to know that somebody laughed at my text joke, and you can just write ha-ha and get on with your day. But I have to write like a Proustian fucking text.
What's a Proustian text?
Proust? Come on, son.
Proust with the Madeleine?
Yeah.
I thought his name was Proust. But the question is, though, do you think that they set that shit up so that you don't have to have the LOL problem?
That was an amazing pronunciation of Madeleine by Dave, I gotta say, also.
Do you think that the fucking LOL is a bigger problem than society is acknowledging? Do you think that there are two kinds of people, those who like LOL and those who don't? Do you think it's really big or is it not big?
I don't like using those three layers LOL, but I do understand the desire to tell people that
You're
you
laughing
laughed out loud at what they said, or that I have a desire, like I enjoy knowing that I made somebody LOL. I just don't like writing it.
How about Artie, though? He LOLs at himself. it wasn't me making him LOL. He writes something and then he writes LOL.
But that's for people because they're worried that you're going to take something personally, so they're telling you, like, I'm joking. Like, in the Artie episode, it was hilarious because I know you find him funny, but, like, he would make these jokes and it would be silent and he'd have to keep being like, I'm joking. I'm just joking. I'm kidding.
I know, that's a problem,
Because
right?
it's, like, dark. Wait, which is the problem?
The problem is... Like, you know me. Like, when I laugh, like, I laugh. You know what I mean? It's serious
You're
laughter.
trying to stay in the game, keep your head in it.
No, I'm just saying, like, if something doesn't tickle my fancy, I can't just laugh.
Right.
You
Right.
know?
Well, it's a great quality of yours. And, like, Chris, who I think was genuinely laughing at him, like, Artie was like, Chris has been fake laughing the whole time. Like, you kind of got props for, like, not laughing, and that's a great. I feel like that's a very great quality of yours. Like, you won't pretend, you won't bullshit for somebody's benefit, and unless you find it funny, you're not laughing. To be polite, you're not as people pleasing.
Right, but it's like with Artie, it would have been great if I could have. I just think that if you, okay, do you ever laugh to please?
Yeah.
And when you laugh to please, does it hurt?
No.
It never hurts.
No, because I don't like to be, if I like put myself out or make a shitty joke.
You want a little snicker.
It's nice of somebody. They're just saying, like, we're here, we're together, it's social, it's not
fake
like
laughing
a death.
is like texting LOL.
Yes.
It's like acknowledging
exactly,
that you were trying to be funny.
Exactly.
Right.
It's a nicety. It's a social grace.
It is. I hear you. But I like that he LOLs himself. Then, so he says again, his joke was, and Artie, I'm sorry that, I know you're listening, so I'm really sorry that I'm reading your text, but this is in lieu of you coming on the show.
I was thinking the same thing.
Which? That I shouldn't read his text?
No, I was thinking you should because he's not listening.
Okay. Well, is that okay, or am I violating?
I mean,
in the end, the punchline is
all's good in love and addiction podcast. Yeah.
And he says you're a great guy, man, which I'm not.
Totally.
I'm an opportunist. My life's been chaos for 35 years. At some point, it's got to end or slow down. I'd prefer the second option, LOL. So he's laughing. And I write, I'm a fucking huge fan of yours, and it's an honor to communicate with you at all. You can slow down and thrive if you want to. Do you ever talk to anyone about recovery and addiction and stuff? And I don't stop texting. You ready? I keep going.
This is just recently?
This is yesterday.
You've already written all that to him. I've heard other podcasts of yours where you've quoted your text. They're the exact same. This is like the swingers phone call when you keep calling back.
I know. And then I say, I know it's annoying to hear, but you can get better.
Oh, God.
And be happy.
Jesus.
I'm convinced of this. I was on heroin for 15 years and methadone for 6, and my life got better. Either way, I love you, man, and I have your back. If you ever want to talk, please let me know. And Dopey is about to blow up. The drummer from Guns N' Roses is coming on tonight for National Overdose Day. You know what Artie said?
What?
Please stop texting. Love you.
Oh, good for him.
And what did I write?
Copy.
So, I mean...
So good.
So
good. There's just like a huge block of blue on Dave's screen from all of his texts, the little novellas he wrote to Artie trying to make love to him.
I know. I've never tried to make love to a more disgusting man. So let's move through it. I'm going to play a voicemail that I got. You want to hear it?
Yeah.
It's actually from one of the best, if not the best, Dopey voicemail artists, which is Tim from Philly. He sounds like he's really going through it. I've been talking to Tim, and I I thought he should write or send in a voicemail to let people know what's going on with him, and I'm sure some of you can totally relate. So here is Tim.
What's up, Dopey Nation? This is Tim from Philly checking in. I wanted to give a quick voicemail, leave a quick voicemail, and let you guys know where I'm at. Dave kind of knows what's going on in my life, but I thought that I would share it with the rest of you in hopes that maybe it helps somebody. I am fresh out of detox, about a week and a half out of detox. I went in for 7 days, and let me start from the beginning. So about 6 months ago, I picked up a substance called Kratom. I'm sure some of you know what that is. Probably most of you know what it is. At that point, I had roughly a year and a half clean. And I want to just preface all this by saying that my facts are as honest as I can make them. The timelines are a little blurry, and, I'm trying my best to remember things exactly as they were and to tell you them exactly as they were. But so, had about a year and a half clean. I was doing a lot of things that would resemble working a program. I sat on the board of directors at a large recovery program here in Kensington, Philadelphia. I floated around like I had my shit together, helped some people here and there, showed face at church a lot of Sundays. And, from the outside, I looked like everything was going really well for me. And I managed to get a year and a half without using any substances. Except now that I think about it, I did, even before this, I did abuse gabapentin. Not in a way where, I took a whole bunch of them to get high, but I was prescribed them and I took more than I was supposed to. Even if I take one more than I was supposed to, I'm not following doctor's orders, and I guess really that's when the relapse started. So anyway, had about a year and a half. We'll just, for the story's sake, we'll just say that. And so I decided to pick up this stuff called Kratom. And the reason I did is because I heard about it through a friend who seemed to be doing pretty good in life, and he mentioned it on Facebook, said how it helped him with anxiety and yada yada, and it was just gray enough of an area for me at the time that I thought, why not? So I tried it, and it's a very weak, I don't know, people will tell you it does different things for them, and it's supposed to, in low dosages, kind of give you energy, and in higher dosages give you sort of an opiate effect, which I never experienced from it. I tried taking a lot, didn't really get that opiate feeling I was looking for, but I did get a little bit of a euphoria with it. So I was putting it in my smoothies and started taking it, and that went on for a few months, and I guess what happens is, if you do something long enough and you're not supposed to be doing it, it weighs heavy on you. So, and it eventually becomes too much. And I think that's what happened. I'm running around. People think that people are coming to me for advice. People are, people think that I'm this big wig at the, it's just a joke, really. And here I am, screwing around with this substance and doing things that I shouldn't be doing, and still doing addict behaviors, and not just little ones here and there. Like, I was doing some slimy shit, and I think that those two things combined kind of led me to a point of just not even really conscious of what was going on, and I let my guard down, and let my recovery kind of get away from me, and business became more important. Just life became more important when we all know that recovery and a program is that's got to be first, you know. And I used to say to people, I'd say, you know, I live a big life, and AA is only 10% of it, but it's the first 10%. And I love that saying, because at some point I'd like to get there where it's like, yeah, you know, you can have a big life, you can have, you know, a business and travel and do all this great stuff, and AA, you know, it might only be a small percent, but you got to keep it that first 10%, and that's where I think I screwed up. So anyway, start messing around with this, and within the last, I would say, let's fast forward, because that just dabbled, and I'm just doing all this crazy stuff, and it leads me to start messing around with perks. So I took Percocets a few times, took some benzos a couple times, and I got to a point where I knew I was screwed. So here I am at work talking to my coworker about where I was at, trying to convince her that I had everything under control, trying to convince her that, you know, I could do this, and that I wasn't gonna, you know, I'm smart enough to not go back to that. I haven't done hard drugs in like 5 years, so I'm too smart for anything to happen, don't worry. And I get the news that Chris dies, and it hits me like a ton of bricks. I instantly, I got full of just dread, because if here I am thinking that it can't happen to me, and it ends up happening to someone who I thought it could never happen to. So I freak out, I contact Dave, tell him where I'm at, and you know, I don't know. So I go to rehab, and thankfully I decide that I'm not going to try to do it at home, because that went through my head, that brilliant idea, which we know how that ends. But I go to detox, and I stay for 7 days, and I get out, and I'm still an emotional, mental wreck, and the physical parts is all healed, but I'm still just fucked up on the inside. And I decide that I can't take it anymore, and I want a Percocet. And then of course my brain says, you know, just get a couple of them, and we'll just wean down, and you'll be fine. You know, we'll just use them to just kind of, you know, just to break the fall a little bit. We'll get you out. We'll get you off all this stuff in no time. But there was also a voice in my head that said, if you go and get a Percocet, you are fucked, right? So, and I listened to the voice. I listened to that voice. I believed it. So I go and I get a Suboxone instead, off the streets, because, you know, in Kensington you can get anything you want in 5 minutes. It's all right there. So I get a Suboxone. I take a tiny little piece of the Suboxone, probably 1.5 milligrams, you know, maybe to, I don't even think it was 1.5. I think it was probably 1 to 1.5 milligrams. I take it. I instantly feel better. All the anxiety and the depression like left immediately, and so the next few days I proceed to take that tiny little bit of Suboxone, and that's where I'm at. That's currently where I'm at, and I tell Dave and I tell everybody else in my life that's like, you know, you shouldn't do this, you're fucked, yada yada. I tell them I don't have the luxury to go away at the moment, and I don't really know any other solution to what ails me at this moment. I know AA works, I know, you know, the program works and a higher power works, but right now it's not working for me, and I have to stay alive long enough to get something that works other than drugs. So I am taking tiny pieces of Suboxone, you know, usually I take about 1 milligram twice a day. That's what I've been doing. I'm going to just hang here. I am going to try to go to a Suboxone doctor so that at least I can be doing it the right way. And, you know, I'm really hoping that I can just stay good for long enough to get this thing, because I know this isn't the final solution. And anyway, I know it's a lot of stuff to try to cram into a short amount of time, but I don't know. I know this death affected me, and I know it affected a lot of you guys, and I just thought that I would share where I was at, because, you know, that's what this program's all about. We need each other, and our stories are what help keep each other clean. So I hope you guys are all doing all right out there, and thanks for letting me share.
All right, crazy voicemail from Tim. Really heavy stuff in terms of, relapsing on Kratom, turning it into Percocets, which begets Suboxone, and now he's stuck eating little pieces of Suboxone. And I know a lot of you guys are in the same spot. And my heart goes out to Tim, and I know that he's more than capable of coming back from this thing. It's just about putting your feet in front of each other and doing the next right thing. Getting off the Suboxone is very, very tricky. And, if you want to be on Suboxone for the rest of your life, and I'm not saying Tim does. I know that Tim doesn't. And if you do, it's none of my business. I just know that it's not easy to live with something hanging over your head. And I'm very, very grateful to not have any substance hanging over my head. My life is a million times better than it ever was because I don't. And I know that Tim felt that freedom, and I'm sure that he'll figure out how to put his feet together in order to get back to it. Greg, why aren't you saying anything?
Because you're saying it.
All right. Well, we're going to call Tracey Helton, who is this very, 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 very effective harm reduction mentor or superhero of harm reduction, we'll say. I'll let her tell the story, but she is out there on the front lines battling overdoses, sending out Narcan to wherever she can, and she's awesome. And here's Tracey. What is the title you'd give yourself?
The heroine of heroin is what people call me.
The heroine of heroin. And Tracey's been on Dopey before. She told some amazing stories. She also called herself the Abscess Queen. You might have more nicknames than James Brown. The heroine of heroin, the Abscess Queen, the hardest working woman in recovery. What else? That's it?
That bitch.
That bitch,
That's
Tracey.
That's my old title. I pass that along to whoever.
And I saw you on the news. I saw you bringing Narcan to Virginia, right? Or someplace like that.
So I was on the NBC Nightly News. I mail naloxone to people all over the country. And so that naloxone ended up being used. The one that they filmed specifically ended up being used to save someone's life. So then they followed up with that and put an infographic up about it.
Well, it was cool. Everybody was very happy to see you, and I was very happy to see you. Those guys were so grateful. It must be very rewarding work. Do you feel like it's very rewarding?
I feel like as a person who did a lot of taking in my active addiction, it's nice to be able to give back, specifically to my community. So I consider the people who use drugs community to be my people, and so I'm really happy to be able to contribute something when before all I did was ask you for $1 or whatever it is that you had to give me.
To see what you could take. Well,
yeah,
today, not only are you giving back to the Dopey Nation, the Dopey community by coming on, but I also posted your meme on Instagram. The if God loves me, why does smoking crack make my lips so chapped or whatever meme, which was great.
Yeah, so I didn't make that one. I usually make ones about when someone comes to me with Narcan. A lot of those are mine. Because I've had that experience of being Narcan. And it's generally not one that you forget, but at least you're alive. So I'm alive today because of Narcan, which is part of why I'm such a fan of it.
So tell me that story. What was your Narcan overdose survival story?
I have a couple, but the worst one, I'll just tell you the worst one. So I had done methadone. I had finished the methadone detox. Which I had quit using heroin at least for a little while, but then I had returned to it. I was tipping behind my boyfriend's back, of course. And I was at my friend's house, and so I asked her if I could just have her little remnants or whatever she had left, and she had this massive habit. And I did it, and I felt kind of, not necessarily in a good space, but then I turned around, and she was completely out of it. She was blue. And as a matter of fact, I was watching Judge Judy, and I'd eaten ice cream, and I turned around, and she was so blue, I had to think to myself, am I going to leave this person? Because, we didn't have access to, take on naloxone or anything back then. So I was just like, oh, shit, I got to do something. So I started doing CPR on her, and, I was doing, the CPR they teach you in high school, you're banging on the chest, and you're breathing for the person, because that's really all we had besides for sticking knives in your crotch or whatever. So I'm giving her the CPR, and this is going on for a while. And just when I was thinking to myself, I might have to stop because I was doing it for like 20 minutes, her eyes opened, and as her eyes opened, the police kicked in the door, and the paramedics were behind them. And so what they said to me, well, the first thing out of her mouth was the dope was hers, which wasn't mine. It was actually hers. So they decide that they need to Narcan her, and they need to Narcan me. So, which was actually a good thing in her case because she's taking so many different kinds of drugs. Who knew what would happen? So way back then, when they would Narcan you, so they said either you're going to get Narcan and go to the hospital, or we're going to take you to jail. So that's what they used to do to you. So I agreed, of course, to go to the hospital. So they Narcan me and they Narcan her. So she was under the influence of some other drugs too.
Wait, hold up, Tracey. They came in and she was overdosed, so they Narcaned her, but you were performing CPR. Yes. So how did they Narcan you?
At the time, you didn't have a choice. I said, well, I can, their police are there. I said, well, how could I have brought her back to life if I'm overdosed? And they said, oh no, we're going to Narcan you too. So I was like, fuck. So there's two different stories here. I'll tell you the other one after that. So then they Narcan her, they Narcan me. The whole way to the hospital, she's like, it was my time to go. Why didn't you just let me go? And I was like, note to self, let her die next time. And they strap us down, because she's taking Clonopins or something. She's all disinhibited. So they strap us down to the bed for 45 minutes. And the whole time she's complaining about it was her time to go and all this other kind of stuff. I'm strapped down to the bed in withdrawal, even though I haven't been using that long. So 45 minutes after the Narcan wears off, they would unstrap you and they let me go. They let her go. So of course we went to go up. But the moral of that story is, I'm sober now and she's sober now.
Wow.
So she lived and I lived. So the time before that, when I had been Narcan, I just remember I did the dope, and I didn't know what was happening, and I was dreaming about football, and then I woke up, and I was underneath, I was like, why are people over top of me? It's because I was underneath the table. I had fell through a table when I had overdosed. Fell, like, those glass tables that you have, so you can see your little drugs and your reflection and how pathetic you look at the same time.
Yeah.
It was one of those, and I was underneath the table, and so I got saved from an overdose that time, too. And, of course, we always try to refuse to go in the ambulance because you don't want to have a $500 ambulance bill. But, so that's before we had Take On Naloxone. Take On Naloxone now, I could have saved my friend, and my friend could have saved me. The police wouldn't have been involved necessarily, although sometimes you do need to call the paramedics, and it would have been a whole different situation. Of course, we didn't have fentanyl in our dope back then. The worst that we had to worry about was just our wound botulism or flesh-eating necrotitis or something that was or endocarditis. We didn't have, fentanyl, something that we had to worry about pretty much in all the dope in the U.S. supply now and in the cocaine. Right.
Yeah, it's crazy. When you got Narcan and you were giving the CPR, was it painful? Did you get sick? Like, what does it feel like?
So, it depends on how much opioids you have on board. So if you think of the the opioids flowing through your brain like a river, so the Narcan is a temporary dam. So in the first case, I had been using again consistently, so I went into withdrawal. So that was horrible. I had gone into 45 minutes or an hour withdrawal, but then the drugs came back to me.
So for 30 or 45 minutes, the supply is
45 minutes to an hour.
Okay, and it's like you weren't even overdosing. You were saving your friend's life. The people show up. They basically send you into violent withdrawal, and then it must have been amazing. An hour later, you get high again without using.
Yes. Yes, except for now I'm mad because I had to do, when I did my meds, I had to pay off that hospital bill. I was like, what is this hospital bill on my, you do your little credit report. It was from an overdose. I know it's super frustrating. But the experience of being in withdrawal doesn't compare to being alive. And
right.
That's the thing. Especially in the case of my friend, I mean, she was in such, it was really questionable whether or not she was dead or not. I mean, I really had to think hard about what I was going to do because back then there were no Good Samaritan laws. They would prosecute me. Even though it wasn't my drug, they could have prosecuted me for murder, for killing her.
Right, of course.
Now, in most places, they have Good Samaritan laws where if you can respond to a person's overdose. But I'm in the SF Bay area right now. I walk around with naloxone in my bag. I walk around and see people overdosing on the street. I've responded to overdoses and Narcan people just walking around.
Have you ever Narcan somebody that was in your situation where they like weren't like dying, but they seemed too fucked up, and you were like, "I'm gonna put a stop to this," kind of thing?
No, what I generally do in those situations is monitor the person.
Right.
In case it's sour. So like I used to do this example called the $5 overdose, where you get out of jail and you're feeling sick, and then your friend, you have $5 left on your books. So you go get your little pint of Royal Gate, and then you run into another friend, and they might give you a pill, they might give you a Valium or Klonopin, something to tide you over, and then you finally run into your other friend, and then you say, "Can I just chip in $2 for your rent," or something like that, and they hook you up. Well, 45 minutes to an hour later, when the Valium goes through your bloodstream and the alcohol really hits you, you can have all those things combined, have an overdose, and so you have to worry because you have 3 central nervous system depressants all hit you at the same time. So in some circumstances, you have to watch people, you have to monitor them to make sure that that they don't have an overdose later on, either from the drugs in their system, or other drugs that they had in their system that you knew nothing about.
Right. Yeah, so it's with Chris, his girlfriend came home. She was, almost a doctor. He had Narcan in the house. She had Narcan in the house, and she just came home too late. You know what I mean? And that's the worst thing. He couldn't have administered it to himself, obviously, and by the time she had come home, he had been dead. Which is why this International Overdose Awareness Day hits so close to home for us. Because we just.
And I had texted with Chris not even a week before this had happened.
What did he say?
We were talking about guests that he wanted to have on the show.
Who would? Oh yeah, he was telling me about that.
It's interesting that we come in contact with so many people that you could reach out to, but in that situation, a person who's relapsed has so much guilt and shame. They just don't want to tell anyone. And in the case, a lot of people have this situation where they relapse and die because of the shame, because they don't want to tell someone. We really recommend there was an old saying we used to have in the 2000s, fix with a friend. But in the case of, drugs that have fentanyl in it, you really kind of do have to fix with a friend. You have to fix with a friend that has naloxone there and available, because you aren't necessarily going to be able to do it and give it to yourself. I have known some people that did it to themselves, but that's, a handful of people.
Right. It must be like very difficult to figure out how to do it to yourself. That's like crazy scenario if you can save your own life while you're overdosing, recognizing it, finding the Narcan, and being able to administer it all at one time. It's crazy.
These people would have it out, like right there.
Ready, right. I feel like with Chris, I don't think that it was about the shame. I think it was more about I don't think he had been using very long, and I think he really wanted to see how long he could do it. But who knows? He's gone, and all I can say is it's a shame. Obviously I'm devastated about it, and our, the people that listen to the show, as you could see, are so upset. And you reached out, and I remember the first time you came on the show, Chris and I were like, we didn't think you liked the show. we're like, we don't think Tracey really likes the show. But then you came down on us about having Dr. Drew and Bob on the show. I don't know. But then you always would reach out. So we always knew that you were a friend of the show deep down, which always meant something to me and Chris, just so you know.
Well, if a person who's your friend can't be critical and tell you things that are critical, then what am I? You're friends with the people that tell you the things you don't want to hear. And I think, when a person close to us overdoses and dies, it does change a lot of ourselves. That's part of the reason that I do the work that I do. If it wasn't for my friend, being on methadone, everybody pressuring him to get off methadone, him overdosing and dying, I probably wouldn't be the harm reductionist that I am today, because I was super judgy and super in the shallow pool of 12-step thinking that my way is the only way, and it changed my whole perspective. That was the person I was close to, and having them overdose and die. And I had to think of like my own program, what I needed to change, my worldview, what I needed to change. And now no one's not. I mean, overdose is so prevalent. We all have to mobilize ourselves and think about the people in our life and reach out to them and get Narcan and have it available and think of the things that we can do to try to prevent this from happening in the future.
Right. Absolutely. And what
which isn't, I mean, it's, you know, it's not really, I just think there's so much more work that we can do, and the people who are listening to you are the people who can do that, people who've had experience with drugs. I mean, we're the ones really on the front lines doing the work right now.
So what is International Overdose Day all about, Overdose Awareness Day all about, and what can the Dopey Nation do to support the cause?
So there's events. You can try to find a local event. You can talk to a friend about overdose. You can get naloxone from a local program or see if your insurance covers it. Keep it for yourself or give it to someone that you know that needs it. You can put overdose education on, because you never know who needs it. Put overdose education on your social media. You can put up stickers that say Narcan. There's lots and lots of things that people can do. Educate yourself about overdose, because there's still so many different myths that you hear. Well, I'm snorting heroin, I can't have an overdose. Well, that's not true at all. You know, I can shoot someone up with speed and reverse their overdose. Well, that's not necessarily true. It could be that you're just waking them up for poking with the needle, and now they have to, you know, now there's all these other things involved. You know, just educate yourself about, and even people educating themselves about the drugs that they're using. I am one of the moderators of our Opiate Forum on Reddit, and you'd be amazed how many people are using drugs, and they first of all have no idea exactly what they do, what the potency is, or like what the side effects can be of different drug interactions and stuff like that. So I think that's a pretty decent list.
Definitely. And like one time I overdosed. It was actually this woman. I had never shot dope before. I was always sniffing it, and I met this woman, and she came over and she shot me up, and I overdosed. And she brought me back with ice in the crotch. Is that still an overdose if you're not getting Narcan and you're just getting your testicles iced down?
So what I would say is it's not the ice, it's the movement and the stimulation. So one of the things you can do is you can take your knuckles and rub someone's sternum, which is quicker than putting ice on someone's nuts. I mean, the pain stimulus, having some kind of pain stimulus, if they're not completely, I mean, I can't say for sure if it wasn't a fatal overdose, but it was definitely some kind of drug poisoning that you were having.
Right.
So in that particular situation, the stimulation might have helped you, and luckily you're here today.
Yes, definitely. And so thank you so much, Tracey. I love to hear from you, and I want to get you back on in the near future if you're down.
Yeah, totally. I'll tell you all kinds of horrible stories of Tenderloin if you're up for it.
Yeah, we need horrible Tenderloin stories. And if you're ever on the East Coast, we could do something in person, which would be super sweet.
I'm going to be in Washington, D.C. September 20th through the 22nd, speaking to the federal judges and some of the probation officers out there. So it'll be an interesting time. I don't know how I went from junkie pulling their pants down in the doorway to socially acceptable, but apparently they have better lunches, so we'll see.
Very nice. And thank you for everything you do. You know what I mean? You do a lot of stuff for us, and you do a lot of stuff for our people, and it's amazing to watch, and you are an inspiration, and everybody should. Where can they check you out?
Okay. Take care.
Hey, where can they check you out? Give a thing, something.
Oh, where can they check me out? So I'm Tracey with an E, 415 on Instagram, on Twitter. I have a blog. If you Google Tracey H415, everything comes up.
And your book?
I have a book called The Big Fix: Hope After Heroin.
The Big Fix.
It's mostly about recovery, but it has a lot of stuff about harm reduction and like things that you can talk to your family members about. And a lot of family members actually read it to try to inform their understanding of harm reduction. So I also donate some to treatment centers and stuff like that because, you know, when you're kicking, you need something to read, especially in jail, too. I come to the prisons in jail.
Right on. Thank you so much, Tracey. We will get you back on the show when you want to come back on the show. And thank you for calling in. I really appreciate it.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks. Oh, and happy International Overdose Awareness Day to you. I think there should be some kind of greeting. Is there some kind of greeting?
Hey, junkie. I don't know. I don't know what that would be.
I think we should come up with something. We'll talk about that later, but I think that's an idea for a greeting. Some sort of junkie greeting for International Overdose Awareness Day. No? You don't think so?
I'm not sure. Well, I'm not sure that would be. You know, a lot of times it's like the families that get together too, with pictures of their loved ones. Yes.
It can be inappropriate, but it could be a way to get people who are in recovery, like, around it. You know what I mean? Because sometimes you just need to do that kind of thing. Because that's what we try to do. We try to bring people in through comedy, and then get them hooked, and then have them be part of the solution. Because sometimes the serious stuff is hard to stomach. You know?
It is.
But you get my drift. Anyway, I really appreciate you coming on, Tracey. Thank you.
Thanks.
Right on. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Tracey Helton, everybody. And Greg dipped out and he dipped back in. Welcome back.
Hey, great to be here.
We didn't hear the end of his
I
thing.
came right in time for your nuts getting iced. Which, can you just play that part again slower?
You want to hear the testicle freezing story?
No, that's okay. But I was just wondering, what was the method, the scientific method for finding that treatment? That's an accepted, that they were just we could use Narcan, or
It was
does
pre-Narcan.
anybody have a cooler? Take his pants down.
Because I think the idea was it's like the ultimate wake up. You know, if you're asleep,
Sure.
that will wake you up.
Right.
And what I remember it was actually an interesting story. I was working on my TV show in my early 20s, and we were cutting a show on Varick Street instead of where we usually cut it. And there was this very attractive girl who worked there who was an editor. And my editor told me that she was on heroin, and I was on heroin at the time. And I was like,
Let's hang out.
yeah, I was like, and I cornered her, and I said, I know your secret. And she said, what do you mean? I said, I know you get high. And she was like, no, I don't. And I was like, it's cool, I get high too. And she gave me her Connect, and then we started getting high together, and she shot me up for the first time, and I overdosed. And I remember she beat the shit out of me, and she put ice on my testicles, and I woke up.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of different ways to wake people up. Shake, I guess, she tried.
I'm sure she
Just
screamed at
accepted.
me.
Yeah,
and
she
that
didn't
kind
just
of
go
stuff.
right to the nut ice.
So I just want to change gears a little bit and talk about my friend Greg. Greg is this big-time actor and playwright.
Super big time.
Very big time. You've been on Broadway at least thrice. Not once,
Sure.
not twice, but thrice.
Sure.
And you've written a few plays.
Yep.
And one of the plays I found to be kind of dopey.
Super dopey.
So tell the Dopey Nation about your super dopey play.
Well, I wrote a play that was based on a real story that happened to a friend of ours in high school, Steve. I don't know, has Steve ever been talked about on the podcast?
I don't think so.
Basically, I think it was during summer vacation or something, but he came back from the summer, I think, and said, I had this crazy story, this weird experience.
I feel like it was the summer before college.
Okay, yeah, that sounds right.
I can only imagine that it was the summer before
Or before our
college.
senior year, because I made, or maybe it was, but I made that movie, I feel like, the summer before.
No, you made that after college. During college, you did that film school. It wasn't right.
Then I did after my freshman year. Anyway, none of this is interesting, but
I think it's fascinating. The timeline is just incredibly dynamic to the audience.
so our friend Steve is like, I was on the train. I think he was headed to a summer art class maybe in Midtown, but he lives in the Bronx. This kid started talking to him on the train.
And just you guys, Steven is whiter than white, lily white, Irish guy, very pale skin, blonde hair, thin as a rail, pale as a sheet, anyway.
Right.
And the kid that approached him was a black kid.
Right. And now we went to public school in New York. We're not oh gosh, a black kid. But you knew the kind of kid that was potentially looking for trouble and potentially
wanting to fuck with you. Potentially, when we came up, people, it was not unheard of to be robbed on the train, or somebody wanting to take your money, or asking you to give them something in a sort of pseudo-threatening way. And us being pussies, we might give it to them, or we might run away, or we might, not.
This was also a time where there was a gang in New York. The whole idea of gangs in New York was not around in that age, but there was this big group called the Decepticons, which was like the New York gang, yes, named after the bad guys in Transformers.
And they terrorized our high school.
Yeah, they would just, and they were part urban legend and part real, and people would just run out of the train being like, Decepticons! So anyway, it's in this period that this kid steps to Steve.
Why did Steven think he was a Decepticon? Was that part of the story?
I just think
Did he think he was, what's my guy? Megatron? Or Starscream?
That's right. Like, to avoid the Decepticons, another friend of ours, a kid we knew, Max, was known to impersonate a learning disabled
Max
kid.
Who?
Jay.
He did?
Yeah, I heard. Didn't you hear that story? That
no.
Yes, he would like affect a retarded posture, and they would come up to him, and he would.
Is that true?
Yeah, I think so. That's
so. It was like playing possum. He would play
exactly,
retarded.
Exactly.
Okay.
So anyway, the kid starts to talk to Steve. It's seemingly innocuous. They're like, maybe it's friendly. Steve's still trying to figure out like what exactly is going on, because usually when somebody starts talking to you on the train, like in New York, something's up. It's not, if you've not been to New York, usually people aren't just like starting up conversation kid to kid. Anyway, so somewhere in the conversation, the kid says to Steve, yo, me and my boys are sticking people up on the train. And Steve is like,
oh, that's interesting.
Cool. And
Steven was really smart. Steven was like somebody who analyzed situations, and he's thinking, well, how am I going to avoid getting stuck up on the train?
Right.
Basically.
Exactly. And so he thinks, like, if I get off to go to this art class, this kid is going to follow me. So let me just stay on the train, and I'll sort of head home. And anyway, they keep talking as if he hadn't just talked about him and his friends are robbing people. By the way, he doesn't see his friends around. They're just this sort of mysterious idea that he has this, like,
crew.
This crew that could,
this roving crew of bedlam. That's not a word.
Bandits?
Roving, thieving, Decepticon, what do you call it? A crew that, like, fucks with you on the train. Like a shakedown crew or something. I don't know.
Is this the 20s?
I don't know. Continue, please.
Yeah, they tried to shake him down, see? And so they keep talking as if they're sort of friends, and the kid is like, do you smoke weed? Steve does. Says yes. Next thing you know, the kid is like, yo, do you want to go smoke? And Steve is like, it's probably not a good idea. At the same time, because Steve is like a, guilty white liberal, is like, why shouldn't I go smoke with this guy? Yes, he has said him and his friends are sticking people up on the train, but he's been very nice. We're having a nice time. I like to go smoke.
I think it was also the adventurous side of Steven.
Yes.
And that he was like becoming a stoner. Because Steven wound up becoming this ridiculous stoner. And I think the part of him, like, was scared. But part of him was also like, this is an opportunity to get high with some stranger, some strange black kid who thinks I'm cool enough to smoke with.
Right.
And I think that was a real piece of that story.
Right. It would make him much cooler to go do it. But also, in some way, he also is like, it's also kind of the path of least resistance, because anytime he kind of started to talk about leaving or something, he said that the kid got a little, something changed. It was a little intimidating, or he sort of felt the threat of something, of violence, something. Well,
that's a real situation that I've been in, where
sure.
like you think it's like this pseudo-friendly, terrifying situation where, like, if you're not, And like I'm sure a lot of people in the Dopey Nation where they had a dealer who is probably going to rip you off, but like they want you to trust them and they want you to think that they're cool and you're cool and that there is this air of a good relationship. And the second you question the trust, which you should,
right,
they feel violated or betrayed.
Right. So, and Steve is also like, there is a chance that he is going to rob me, but there's also a chance that he doesn't, and we have a nice time, and I should get over myself. So he ends up, his other thought is, if I don't kind of get off the train with him, well, he was like, so what's the plan? And he was like, all right, we'll get out at this stop. I think it was like 145th. He's like, I'll go get the weed. You'll stay in the station and I'll bring it back down and we can smoke it. So Steve was like, oh, that doesn't sound too dangerous. Like, I'll stay here. Maybe even I'll hop back on the train if one comes, whatever.
I can assess the situation.
I'm not
taking a hostage.
Right. So he's like, all right. He gets off the train. The kid is like, okay, let's go. And he's like, wait, I thought the plan was I'll stay down here. He's like, no, come on, come with me. And Steve's like, I don't have any money. I won't be able to get back in. If I go out, I don't have a token. That's how long ago it was. And he was like, don't worry about it. I'll pay for your token. So Steve is like, fuck. Outsmarted. Goes with him. Goes out. The dude is like, okay, wait right here. I'm going to go get the weed, bring it back. Don't leave. So he heads across the street. As he's heading away, Steve is like,
I can go now. I'm free.
He's going to leave me alone. I'm free. Just at that moment, he turns around, takes his hat off, holds Steve's fist up like a hat rack, and puts his hat on Steve's hand.
That really happened like that?
And he says, so I won't take off. I mean, some of it has now cemented itself in the play.
As the script.
And some of it was what Steve told me. But when I went back recently to like do the final pass on it for the New York production, I exchanged like a long email with Steve and he sort of recapped some stuff. So there was some new stuff. But anyway, so now he has this kid's hat. The kid's name is Eric, by the way. This will be easier to refer to them now. So Eric takes off again. Steve has his hat. He can't go anywhere. Eric like disappears into a bodega, something. Steve is alone for a long time, in what was then, the hood. Now it's a pretty, lovely, whatever, neighborhood, as all New York has been gentrified. Anyway, I mean, I'm saying lovely. Some would not say that's lovely. Anyway, we can get into a debate about gentrification another day.
145th Street. Is 145th Street really gentrified now?
I don't know about really, but like...
It's nicer than it was then.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you like money. So, anyway, so he comes back. Oh, sorry. One detail. The kid is like, before he leaves, before that incident, he's like, do you have anything? Like, do you have any money? Now, remember, Steve has already said, I don't have any money. How am I going to get back in? So the kid is just like, what do you have? And Steve's like, and takes out $2, which he did have. And the kid doesn't say anything. And it's like, that's all you have? It's like, yeah. He's like, cool. He takes his $2 and that's why. And Steve's like, oh, he just robbed me for $2. This is great. I can go. Anyway, then he comes back with the hat. Then he leaves again. He comes back with what looks like a dime bag. So Steve is like, well, he had to shell out more dough than I just did to do this. Like, this is a super interesting con if it is one.
Like, what is his end?
Yeah, what's the end? So they go...
And maybe in the Bronx in 1991, there were nickel bags. And the dude sold him one for $4.
Right.
Who knows?
Right,
Who
exactly.
Knows? I doubt it. I mean, in 1991, I don't remember any nickel bags. But I wasn't copping weed in the Bronx.
No, or in Upper Manhattan. As
I was.
They were in Harlem.
I was copping weed in Washington Heights.
Right.
And there were 10s and 20s. I don't remember any $5 bags.
Right.
Anyway, continue. Really good bags up in Washington Heights. Really delicious bud.
And so Steve is like, where are we going? Where are we going to smoke this? He says he has to meet his little cousin in this park. So they go smoke.
My cousin.
They go smoke in this park. Steve tries to fake and pass to stay.
You mean not smoke?
Yeah, he tries to not smoke. He's trying to stay relatively sober, keep his wits about him, because he's like, this could be trouble.
See, that's the one piece that doesn't show his burgeoning stoner way, that you'd think he'd want to get as high as he can, but he got nervous.
Yeah.
So he was like, maybe I shouldn't get too altered.
Yet, when the dude is like, nah, fuck that, sees him trying to
Not
fake
smoke.
and pass, Steve's like, all right, fuck it, I'm here, whatever. Smoke. Oh, it's a blunt, which like back
But that was
then,
the $2. The $2 went towards the Philly.
Right.
You know, he probably bought two cigars. and
Right.
He probably saved some bud for later. Maybe his friends were selling bud. Maybe it
Right.
was his neighborhood. Who
Right.
knows?
But at that time, like, we weren't smoking blunts. I mean, I wasn't smoking
That was
ton, period. But we, blunts were like,
It was an exotic
Yeah.
moment. And it was right before the blunt, like the Philly blunt
was
T-shirt
right
became
around.
the big thing.
yeah, and
Before-
Redman came
yeah,
out with How to Roll a Blunt.
Exactly.
And like,
It was right then.
so
That's how old we are.
he wasn't used to like that much smoke, I think, and got super high super quick.
And the cigar lends itself to the high. Just the cigar mixing with the weed makes you a different kind of high.
Right.
When you're young, you know.
And a detail from the very beginning that comes into play now that I forgot is when Steve was first trying to get out of going with this dude, just in the very beginning, after he found out he was robbing people, he was like, oh, I can't hang out. I have to go meet this girl. Steve, like, made up this date he had. And
To be cool.
yeah. And so they're on the bench. They've gone, they've smoked, they've done what they've set out to do. I don't think they're having like a great time, but it's not,
Terrible.
It's not terrible. I don't think but there's a tension.
But they're high too.
Yeah, but they're high. You should bring Steve on to tell it. But so he's like, yo, if I'm going to be late, I should at least call this girl to just try to like get to civilization.
But who is he actually going to call?
Nobody. I think he just wants to like,
Get away.
Yeah, but be near a payphone.
Have an
could
out.
Have an out. Or he could like potentially just like call his mom or something and be like, "Help me." I don't know. He's just like, he knows that there's phones back near the train. Maybe
He could get out of the situation.
he needs to get out of this park. It's like nobody's around. He's high as a kite. Like he's scared that something crazy is gonna happen. So. They go. He's like, oh no. He says, he's like, I thought you didn't have any money. How are you going to call this girl? And he says, oh, I have a calling card. Again, this is the era that we're in, calling cards, and which a lot of us did have. Like sometimes your parents would give you a calling card, or like you would know the number.
So
in
you
case you
could
didn't
make
have
a
a
phone
quarter, you
call.
could make a phone call in an emergency. And so he was like, oh, let me see it. Let me see the card. And Steve's like, no, I don't actually have a card. I just know the number. And so he's like...
Eric's like, thinks Steven's fucking with him.
Right. So in the play, I can't remember if this actually happened, but in the play, he's like, oh, yeah, but let me see the card. And when Steve takes out his wallet to show him that there's not a card, Eric gets really offended and is like, why you always act like I'm going to rob you, man? Put your fucking wallet away.
So now you're just reciting lines from the play. You forgot the story.
So I can't
How
remember
did
if that
Steven
actually
get away
happened.
from the guy?
So Steve, he's like, fine. They go to the phone. Eric's like, yo, let me see that this works. I'm going to use your card. So Eric uses the card. He starts talking to somebody. Steve doesn't know who it is. And in that moment, super high, Steve is just like, yo, I'm going to go. Oh, the train, the subway station is right there. He's like, this has been great.
I
gotta
love
go.
you.
And he just sort of stumbles off while Eric is on the phone, goes down on the
Like,
train.
you wouldn't believe this. I got a calling card. I can call people.
So he tells us the story, and we're like, what did he actually want? Like, was he thinking of robbing him and didn't? Did he just want to make a friend? Did he want to make
sweet love?
out with
Yeah.
him? Was it like Dave and Artie Lang situation? Like, what was the deal? Anyway, so
Greg took this. What was the thing that inspired you to do this play?
I think it was just that it was just like this thing that in some way encapsulated a part of our youth and New York and so the desire to write the play was answering the question of like what was he after? The play, which you have to go see or ask for it in your town. It's recently been published by Dramatists Play Service. Go cop it. But
What's it called?
It's called Dutch Masters.
Like the Blunt and the Painters.
Exactly.
But the funny thing to me is that you wrote the play. You wrote the play as a short film in 1993.
Yes.
It took to be 2013 for it to come out, and all of a sudden it was nostalgia. But it was written as current.
Basically, yeah.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
But Greg's play, it was just up in the East Village, and a bunch of our friends went to see it, and it was amazing. It's 2 actors. It's a very stark stage, and it was packed. I guess one night at the performance, fucking Chris Rock shows up.
Common.
Lupita. Greg loves Common. Who else?
Lupita.
I don't know who Lupita
Well,
is.
I had my
Lupita
director
was there?
My director's a very famous
What was her
actor.
name? Was just Hadish there? Tiffany Hadish?
No, Tiffany Haddish was not there. But yeah, the guy who directed it is my buddy from grad school, and he is a very famous actor now, and he has all these famous friends who came through, and it was very fun.
And Greg also is in some famous web series with Omar from The Wire, and he's going to get Omar on Dopey one day.
Sure.
Do you think that'll happen?
Yeah, totally.
You do?
Yeah.
Anyway, the play is incredibly exciting and pretty successful and critically acclaimed.
It has gone okay. It's been done in L.A., New York. It's going to be in Chicago next year. Yeah.
Cop it while it's hot. Can you cop it?
Yeah, you can cop anything.
I don't think you can cop the play, but I think it's cool that you did the play, and I think it is a very dopey story.
Definitely.
Don't you think?
I do.
So I guess it's time to wrap it up, but you want to talk about the history of our friendship?
Yeah, but we could do that another time. You should have the Dopey Nation.
One thing about the history of our friendship that is compelling to you, because you never talk about mushy stuff like that, and I want to hear what you have to say.
I just mean us coming together and our different personalities, and
I think we're like mirror images. What do you mean?
I mean, I feel like I looked up to you for very specific things, and
Like what? Like what?
You know,
my copious eating or my disgusting nature?
No,
my inability to inject heroin properly?
I never liked Entenmann's chocolate cake as much as you did, but no, the way that you always wore your opinion on your sleeve and your heart on your sleeve at the same time. There's a lot of stuff on your sleeve, also some cake.
Phlegm, mucus, perhaps.
But that you never mince words, and I feel like I, am pretty shy, and grew up,
I never realized how shy you were until you did Dopey. I was like, why did I have this shy guy on the show?
And just generally fearful, and not wanting to make mistakes, and
whereas I don't mind making mistakes.
Yeah, you don't mind, you relish in it.
I relish in mistake making.
And you're not afraid to. I mean, I just feel also just growing up in elevators and being quiet and polite and whatever, and you always let your opinion be known, and regardless of whether or not it was a popular opinion or not. But
I also did that to make people feel comfortable. It seemed uncomfortable, but I would always do it to make people comfortable. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
It would be uncomfortable, but you see people respond really well to me in elevators.
Oh yeah.
I'm really popular in the elevator.
You're super friendly. I've always wanted to be a person who walks into the deli and is like, "Hey, Freddie," people know, but I don't talk to anybody. I don't talk to my neighbors. I'm just and you talk to everybody and are friendly and start up conversations.
They know my name at the deli in Sayville.
Know.
And I never had that before. She's I go, "Barbara." She goes, "Hello, David." "Dave, how you doing? What can I get you? How's the family, David?"
Yeah,
I love it.
That sounds dreamy.
You can do that,
but I think I hate people too much and myself
You
too
don't
much.
want them to know you.
Exactly. I don't want to be known.
In the
I
coffee
like
shop?
keeping it private. I'm safer. Many force fields around me. Getting back to the beginning of the episode. But no, sometime I want to come back and talk about your youth, and that I always thought it was weird that you became a junkie.
I know, me too. Isn't it so weird? You never would have expected that, right?
I wouldn't have, from this middle class Jewish kid. Sweet.
But I wonder.
Not so dysfunctional family.
Yes, I wonder. Who could you predict? I mean, I just wonder, who's predictable? Was Chris predictable? Maybe if you talk to his family. Was Todd? I mean, definitely. If you imagine Todd when he was...
Well, Chris only slightly more, and I don't know Chris, again, but it seemed like he had more resources than you did to get, right? Doesn't he have some money?
Yeah.
Whereas, you weren't rolling in it ever. You had to fucking...
No, that's true.
scrap to
pay
and
for
then
everything.
all of your weird like limits where you're like, it makes me laugh that you're like, no, I would never like shoot it in my butt or do this, or like who's heard of a junkie who's like, no, I won't do that for dope. I'll be an addict, but I'm not gonna like.
I think it's because I come from this very, very middle class family, but then again, my boundaries I wasn't planning on ever shooting heroin.
Right.
You know, I wasn't ever planning.
Right, you
on,
moved the goalpost, but you didn't like
Bury it.
completely change fields.
No, that's true. That's true. Here, we're going to do the Dopey review of the day, and this is the newest one, and you can read the whole thing.
Okay. I love the podcast.
You have to read the title of the review.
Okay. It's called You're Helping.
Who's it from?
It's a 5-star review from Cape Fearless.
Cape Fearless, thank you for the 5-star review.
I love the podcast.
Do you know I showed Nora the Simpsons Cape Fear episode? You know where Sideshow Bob hunts them, and she got so scared she couldn't go to sleep. And she's like, Daddy, why did you show me this? And I was like, because it's funny.
Even a spoof of that movie is scary. It's such a scary movie.
You remember when we went to the Museum of Natural History and Dave's son was laughing through the movie like Robert De Niro in Cape Fear? Did you see that?
No, I don't think I was
it
there for
was
that.
hysterical. Anyway, continue.
I love the podcast. If you get it, you really get it. 3 exclamation points. You will not find anything else that compares to this. I still haven't caught up to the latest show. I'm on number 63. Wow. He's got a ways to go.
Ways to go.
I wanted to hear everything leading up to the current show and get to know Dave and Chris. I know it's helping me understand affliction in its various forms. Affliction, not addiction.
No, we call it affliction.
Oh, sorry.
We call it addiction as an affliction.
Got it.
As opposed to as disease.
I get the stories and how these types of dopey situations happen. Keep it up, Dave. We love you.
So do you think that person knows that Chris is dead?
I think because he ended it, keep it up,
Dave.
Dave. He does know that he somehow got the
memo.
spoiler.
Imagine, like, if you don't know. I mean, I don't know. It's just, I cannot, I have to say, it's been wonderful having you here with us. But I totally miss Chris. Not because of you.
No, I know.
It would have been great to have you and Chris. Chris would have thought you were so funny. But like, and I miss Todd, and we will celebrate International Overdose Awareness Day by missing our lost friends. You know, I know that Todd, when he would see you, would be all excited to see you. I don't know if you knew that Todd admired you, but I do.
I love Todd, too.
You did?
Yeah, I didn't see him that much, though.
He was sweet. I love that kid. Anyway, so what we say at the end of the show is we say, stay strong, Dopey Nation. You want to say the thing?
Toodles?
You're going to say it. I should say it, too. I say, fuck you, Chris, for making me say toodles. So everybody's gone, and I just wanted to end the episode again. I really appreciate hearing from everybody in the Dopey Nation Facebook group, and like the Dopey Nation Facebook group is amazing, but it's certainly not the Dopey Nation. You know, the Dopey Nation is anybody that says they're in the Dopey Nation. You don't have to join a Facebook group if you don't want to. I love to see all the stuff you guys are putting up. It makes me feel good. I know Chris would have been amazed by it. I know Chris would have been amazed by everything that's happening, and I know that we were really lucky to be able to make the show together for as long as we did. And I was really lucky to make it with him, and he was really funny, and he was really generous, and he was a great partner. The problem is that he's an addict, and he relapsed, and he died, and that can happen. And this is whatever, International Overdose Awareness Weekend, or it was yesterday. And this show didn't really reflect International Overdose Awareness Day or whatever. I mean, we had Tracey and we had Tim from Philly's voicemail, but it's like the fact is that we do a podcast about drugs, addiction, recovery, and dumb shit, and we lost my partner. We lost Chris to overdose. So every day is International Overdose Awareness Day, and obviously we lost one of my best friends, Todd, and we lost Andrew, who I hear from his mother and his father from time to time, and I'll read their email coming soon. We lost Dave Marshall. We lost Troy Wilcox. We probably lost a handful of people that we don't even know. If you're using and you use with people, chances are you're going to lose some of them, and that's just the harsh reality. One thing they say is if you get high on heroin, you should get high with somebody so they can, and make sure they have Narcan so that can save your life. And that would be great if you did that. It would be great if you didn't get high too. It would be great if you did anything to stay alive and to stay safe. So one last time, stay strong, Dopey Nation, and toodles.
I want to take a walk around the world. I wonder would it do me any good? Until I get some money in my pocket, then I guess I'll just have to walk around my neighborhood. But I want to be good so bad. Want to be so good, so bad, so bad. I want to be good so bad. Bad desire's all I ever had. And I want to take a ride up in the sky. Watch this aeroplane just pass me by. And I want to see a Lear jetliner take a dive, just to show all of these people what it means to be alive. But I want to be good so bad. Want to be so good, so bad, so bad. I want to be good so bad. Bad desire's all I ever had. And my shadow's getting smaller and smaller, and it's time to where I stand. Shadow's getting smaller and smaller, and it's time to where I stand. And I wonder would they pay it any mind when I leave this busted city far behind. I'll take the high road, however far it winds, because peace and love are very, very, very hard to find. And I want to be good so bad. Want to be good so bad, so bad. I want to be good so bad. Bad desire's all I ever had. Damn it, all these suckers make me mad. And it's all I ever had. And it's all I ever had. And these suckers make me mad, and I want to call my dad, and it's all I ever had, and it's all I ever had, and it's all I ever had. And it's all I ever had. And these suckers make me mad, and it's all I ever had, and I want to call my dad, and it's all I ever had.